David?
Mike, can you just start with where Malik Hooker is as far as the process of you being able to sign him and get him out here on the field and do some things?
Actually, Malik's working out right now, so hopefully this concludes the the 5-day period that you have to go through as far as bringing players in.
Have you made the move? Because you have to make a roster move to get him on, right?
Correct.
Y'all done that yet?
Not yet. You guys will be the first to know. Things take a little slower these days, as we know, with the process, just with the protocol.
You talked a little bit about him the other day, but with Donovan Wilson, what did you learn about him throughout last season, and how did he carry that over into the offseason?
I think Donovan's a great example of of a player and a coach. You just have the opportunity to work together. Obviously a young player that did some good things, but when he was given his chance as a starter, he was super productive. Frankly, he was probably our most productive defensive perimeter player, especially attacking the football. His instincts and his awareness and his ability to go separate the ball carrier or the receiver from the ball is unique. So, and he obviously did it. He played the same way in college. I recall, he was that way at A&M, but he's definitely someone that can reckon with. I mean, he's a really good pressure player, and we probably need to give him more opportunities to do that. So, these are some of the things we're working on. But I thought he was definitely one of the players that really jumped out as the season went on and the opportunities that he was given.
How much of that is instinctive and also film work, study, and that kind of thing?
I mean, it's always a combination of both. But I mean, he's like I said, he played that way in college. I do recall him being someone that generated takeaways, and definitely he was our best player in that area last year.
Anticipate Zach practicing today?
Yes, I think Zach will be out there. Yeah.
Interested in Hooker, is that just an opportunity to add another player, or did you need something with the safety?
I think it's clearly an opportunity to add another excellent player. I mean, this is something that we visited on back in, I don't recall his visit, maybe it was March. We had a chance to bring him in, and he's completed his rehab, and I think like any time you have a chance to, just continue to build the competition on your roster, if it works out for both sides, you definitely take advantage of that.
Define roles at your safety. Is Donovan more of a free and Hooker and Kazi more strong? I mean, is Donovan more strong and Hooker and Kazi more free? Or how do you?
Really just talking with Dan this morning, I think this is really what training camp's about. Working through the different calls. We had the opportunity to practice 3 times, had an off day. So one of the things the defensive staff went through, just going through each call, because just the way our defensive roster is lined up right now, we're going to have to really be on top of packages for players and matchups, and conceptually make sure that hopefully it fits the players' skill set the best we possibly can.
Having Zach Martin's all-pro talent back is one thing, but can you talk about having his mentality back in the huddle, even here in training camp, and what it means?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is where the continuity, the cohesiveness, the bonds are built. Especially in that offensive line room, especially in the defensive line room. I mean, that's where it starts. And I think you'll see. I'm anticipating seeing really good energy today because the pads are coming. We all have time clocks in this training camp environment, and it's time to get going. We've had 3 install practices where we've been able to do a lot of teaching, get a lot of drill work done, really focusing on the football as much as we possibly can. The game management, we've done more of that for the first 3 practices than the norm. But we're really starting to get into some more football situations, and I think especially with the pads coming on tomorrow, I think the heightened importance of the O-line and D-line play is definitely shows up when you do put those pads on, and Zach is obviously a key, the personnel you're looking for in there.
Having the different packages, I mean, rather than having a guy out there, leaving him out there, you talked about doing that at linebacker with the different roles for guys, and certainly at safety, and even on the defensive line. Is that more about the talent you have, or certain guys not lacking one thing and it's stronger for others, or is that just the way football is now?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. You don't want to ever sit up here and say, hey, you're preparing for a bunch of injuries that come on, because injuries are part of the game, and the fact of the matter is the concepts need to run through your defensive schemes, but matchups are prevalent, especially when you get into big-time games. I mean, when you play the big-time offenses, and we have a number on our schedule, the matchups will be critical in the game planning process. So, we don't wait to the regular season to get into that. That's a big part of, to me, is why the off-season program is so important to get out here, especially in year one with your defense. The movement, the identification, the communication, the stress points that every defensive coverage has, no different than the stress points that every offensive protection has. I mean, this is why we do these things, and I always love training camp because, both sides are in an install phase, and sometimes you can't avoid it, that the offense has a better, much better play call than the defensive scheme and vice versa. And those are the stress points and the, situations that you can't create enough of those for your players because, they have to react accordingly and make sure we stay in a favorable play when that ball's snapped.
When the offseason first started, Leighton was really adamant about attacking the offseason. Physically, mentally, he wanted to make real strides. Several months now later, what have you seen from him?
I think Leighton's clearly hit the target in that area. I mean, he's definitely, and we had a number of them. He was, one of the players that was here the whole offseason. He did a great job in the weight room. I think his body and his movement reflects that. The understanding of a new staff, and because anytime you have changes, you have language changes, and language is always the biggest challenge I've always felt in football because. What was this was that, and we, whether you call it the same or slightly the same, it's usually different. That's part of the norm in this league. So being here and getting the communication down, because obviously, as a decision maker in the defense, his communication is a primary responsibility for Leighton.
The other day about injury prone or bad luck. Where would you put what's happened with him? Is it injury prone or is it bad luck?
Oh, I think Leighton's is bad luck. I mean, I think when you look at the plays, I know when I came in here last year, just watching the injury against Philadelphia, I think it was just a player getting caught in a bad position. I think that I think his situation is more bad luck.
The field conditions here, it's hard to not notice the amount of slipping that's going on with players through the first three practices.
I mean, I think it's like anything. We're new to this playing field. I don't think it'd be any different if we went, down the road 50 miles on a different field. So I think it's just the getting used to, the marine layer, burns off. I think the one, we really only had one day where it hung a little longer than normal. I've been walking out in here in the morning just to see the process because if I had, I would be practicing at 8 o'clock if it was up to me, but I know you have the marine layer and you guys don't get up before 8. So, I mean, I'm a flexible kind of guy. Don't forget that when things don't go so well. But I'm happy with the field.
Mike, what stood out to you about Kyron Brown and why did y'all want to bring him in?
I'm sorry?
What stood out about Kyron Brown and why did you want to bring him in?
Well, I just think, the first thing is, our numbers are not exactly there, and you're always looking. He had a very good workout. I know our personnel staff felt really good about him, so I think he gives us another young man to compete.
You do the 7-on, well, I don't know if it's 7-on-7 or 5-on-4, whatever you guys call it, but the scramble part of it?
7-on-7, yeah.
When did you start incorporating the scramble aspect to it, and why is that important?
Well, the scramble aspect's always been part of my practice structure. I think it's like anything, most things I do come from the view of the quarterback, but it's something that both sides need, and our defense needs the scramble component as much as the offense. So we've done scramble drills on air just with the offense. I've always done scramble drills that convert in team practices. I think it's important, you're in a team period, you have 22 guys working. If a defensive lineman beats a offensive lineman, it's a registered sack, but the whole play, shutting the whole play down, you're missing a great opportunity to convert it into a scramble drill because, the rush plan, the rushers have to transition rush, the offense have to react, they have to extend. 2.3 is the normal, the normal starting point of a play where things are all fitted, but big plays happen above 2.3 seconds in a play, so and it happens so much more than you think it does. In the old days, you used to chart them, it was 4 plays a game. Now it's up to about 8 plays a game where the quarterback slides his feet in and out of the pocket, comes out of the pocket. So it's just once again, train the way you play. It was an area that I would not say we graded out very well in last year, on both sides, both scramble phase, offensively and defensively, and it's a reflection that we're working on it more this year than probably I have in quite, some years. So, but it's always been part of how I viewed the game of football, particularly from the quarterback position and stressing the defense side. We're practicing a little more.
Is it a way to script the unscripted in some respects, where guys know like there are rules in what they're doing? I guess it's not just freelancing and running around.
Well, I think the comparable would be to the fast break in basketball. I mean, if you all look like hoopers here, so you know what I'm talking about. It's fast break. There are principles to the lane and the spacing and what you're trying to accomplish. It's the exact same theory for the offense, because at the end of the day, you're trying to create a triangle for the quarterback. You got to create separation on the move. You're coming from different starting points in it. Scramble. The defense has to recognize it. The ability to plaster. There's always a home run opportunity usually in a scramble drill. So it's the fact that if you just sit down and look at all the touchdowns each and every year, scramble plays are a big part of touchdown production, especially in the red zone.
On Sunday, with Zach not practicing and Connor getting some breathers on the first team to the center work, you're able to evaluate both Connor and Brandon working with the first team at guard. How do you feel both of those players showed with those opportunities?
I think they definitely, have taken this step. I think it's like anything. When we get into the padded stuff and things heat up, we get into more of the, the fast break, the faster tempos at the line of scrimmage. So we want to stress that process, the cadence process out as much as possible, even for obviously our whole team, O&D. But that's the real test that those guys have to get, start, getting more reps in that area.
On those lines in general, over the course of your experience, how have you found that there's player evaluation over the course of OTAs and mini camp, and then this first period of training camp when there's no pads? Like, how much can a player evaluation change, or someone that you think might be a certain level of player can change one way or the other when pads come on? Does that really sway?
I mean, it always has, and it always will. I mean, there's just, certain guys look better in pads than they do without pads. I mean, that's the fact. That's why they're all different. I mean, they all have a certain level of gross motor skill development, and they have a certain level of fine motor skill development. So, and I think when you have to be defined in, practicing in those climates and just being tuned what you're trying to get out of it. I think, some of these roles that have been put in place, through the CBA, I think they're very healthy. I think that, I think you could, as a coach, there's some things you like to adjust, but they do give you a teaching progression. And I think like anything that you're trying to do, whether you're teaching footwork, development, or if you're, more spacing and open field movement drills development, to be able to do that in an OTA and then bring it to a heightened, environment that we're in without pads and then go into pads, that's a very good progression to teach off of.
Make the evaluation process a little harder because you don't get to pads until basically the 8th day?
I don't think so. It's systematic. I think anytime you're in a systematic progression of teaching, it gives you the ability to be consistent in your evaluation. So, no, I don't think it makes it harder.
Anybody being held out today, Mike?
Not that I'm aware of, unless something changes from this morning. Yeah.
Mike, considering your history and your background, what's it mean, do you think, to see Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay, whether it's just for this year or a couple more years or whatever it is?
I think it's great. I think it's great for him. I think it's great for the club. I'm very hopeful Aaron gets to finish his time up there. I mean, he's done so many great things in his time up there. So I was glad to see. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I was glad to see that it's working out.
You've talked about the improvement at linebacker and the expectations there. How much does the improvement at defensive tackle and what you need there relate to that?
I mean, I think it's like anything, having your players in front of you in any run defense is going to make your job, that much easier. So I think just the size and the length, particularly inside, I'm excited to see the impact that'll make in our run defense. So I'm definitely looking for more production out of the linebacker group because of not only who's playing in front of us, but how we're playing.
You feel like you've made that improvement at tackle with the players you have?
In underwear, we've kicked it out of the park. Yes, we have. So.
What do you like about
talking-
Watkins? Sorry, David. What do you like about Watkins, particularly about what he's done?
I tell you what, he's, his video in Houston. Obviously, we were excited about it, but really like the man. I like what he brings to the working place and the classroom. But I tell you what, he moves better than I expected. So I mean, he has, position flexibility. I think he can bounce all the way out to a 5 technique. So I mean, I think that says a lot about him, and it gives us the flexibility, particularly as we're talking about getting in and out of these base and sub packages.
You were talking earlier about how the scrambles have gone up from like 4 to 8 from what you charted. Do you think it's just a natural evolution with sophistications of defenses that there will be more unscripted offense going forward? There'll be, or will the need to call the play and have more structure always be there and override that?
I mean, I think it's unscripted. I mean, give the coaches a little credit. I mean, they are working on it, but no, I think that's just I think it's a reflection of the quarterbacks in this league. Number one, I think it's a combination of things. I think that the athletic quarterback is the primary, as far as how guys are playing. Quarterback's ability to move in and out of the pocket. You're just seeing more players that have that ability. And I'm not probably saying that the right way. You're just seeing more of it. I think the rules changes definitely, are part of it. Because this game, the spacing plays have definitely gone up, and I think that's just part of today's NFL as opposed to 10, 15 years ago.
Do you warn the rookies about what tomorrow's gonna be like when the pads come on? Do they have any idea how this changes?
No, I mean, we'll have a team meeting today, so we'll definitely talk about our first padded practice. I think it's important to go through what I call it practice ethics. Practice etiquette and the ethics of what go on in a padded practice, because at the end of the day, the extracurricular activity was it was kind of cool in the 90s, but I'm not cool anymore. So it's a waste of time, and it's and everything we do, we're on such a clock. It's our regimentation has actually been very good. I've been pleased with that. The new CBA, the 11-hour work rule and the 12-hour work rule, plays into that. So yeah, I mean, we want to get our work done. We want it done the right way. But yeah, I think some of the things that went on in the past, I don't really have much patience for it.
Do you find the guys, or if there are fights, or what do you do to
Can't give you everything, Todd. I mean, I feel like I'm just pouring my heart out up here. I mean, my goodness. I'll give you the practice script here in a second.
Last year winter camp, and next contract was one of the things that was hanging over things, divide the attention of the quarterback. We talked just a little bit about what's going on in Green Bay. How nice is it to have a camp where most of the issues are all on the football field? You don't have to worry about those other things.
I think every coach in this league wants to be all about football, and we all in every team, every organization. I mean, you're going to have challenges. It's just a matter of how many. And I mean, just COVID protocol is we're in a new setup, and so there's always going to be things you have to deal with. I think it's just a product of our sport.
Mike, when you talk about the evolution of scrambling in this league and how much it's gone up, what, if at all, do you look for differently in your offensive linemen when you need them to be able to protect for longer? I
think that's a great point. I mean, the ability to play beyond the 2.3 seconds. I think the pass protection is their ability there is heightened. The athletic ability, their training, the championship conditioning is something that we talk a lot about, and that's why we train that way, because if you look at it, some of the biggest plays in the playoff games are usually at the end of the game. Plays are extended, and that's when we got to be at our best. So, but yeah, I think the athletic ability of both lines is a big factor in that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.